We've all felt that, haven't we? Like, history's got these little secrets, these whispers about people who, you know, dared to be different, people who found power in the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
And that's what we're diving into today, one of those hidden currents of history, the fascinating world of, well, queer magic.
I like it.
You sent in some really interesting stuff,
Right.
articles, even a video.
Yeah.
This topic really sparked your curiosity, huh?
Yeah.
What got you interested in this whole world of queer magic?
You know, it's so fascinating to see people digging into these connections, especially because the idea of queerness and magic being, well, kind of linked, that's not new at all. It's like woven right into history. Like, take, for example, the ancient Norse practice of Seir. It was this form of shamanism where practitioners could, talk to spirits, see the future, even influence events. And get this, both men and women could be Seir practitioners.
Wait, really? So magic back then wasn't automatically seen as a woman's thing?
Exactly. In fact, men who practice Seir, sometimes they faced like ridicule, right? They were labeled with this term ergi, which basically implied they were feminine and it was meant as an insult. Even the Norse gods used it as a taunt in some of the myths.
Wow.
It really highlights how, even back then, challenging those traditional gender roles often went hand in hand with accusations of witchcraft.
Wow, that's incredible. So even then, it was less about the magic itself and more about, well, who was using it and how that power kind of threatened the norms of the time.
Yeah.
It seems like throughout history, accusing someone of witchcraft was just a handy way to discredit anyone who didn't fit the mold.
Precisely. And this wasn't just happening in ancient Scandinavia. Think about Joan of Arc, right?
Oh, yeah.
A figure whose story still kind of captivates and confounds historians even today. Joan's story really embodies this tension. She defied gender norms by wearing men's clothing, leading armies' actions that ultimately led to those accusations of witchcraft and her tragic demise. It's no coincidence that Joan of Arc has become such an icon for both queer communities and, practitioners of magic. Her story really speaks volumes about how those in power, they often try to silence those who challenge the status quo, labeling them as dangerous or, deviant.
It's like they couldn't handle someone who broke the mold, so they had to invent a reason, and that reason was almost always witchcraft.
Exactly. And this played out in royal courts as well. Like, take King Edward II of England, for example.
Okay.
He was known for his close relationships with male favorites at court.
Yeah.
Which, of course, led to whispers and accusations that, these favorites had bewitched him to gain influence. This whole idea of bewitchment was a common way to explain away relationships or political alliances that people considered unsuitable or threatening to the established order.
So if someone dared to, I don't know, love or align themselves with someone outside the accepted norm, boom, suspicion, rumors, accusations, it makes you wonder, who are they really threatened by? Was it ever truly about magic? Or was it about control?
That's the question that continues to intrigue historians and scholars today. This pattern of associating passionate love with bewitchment, it reveals just how deeply intertwined magical thinking and societal anxieties really are. And it wasn't just about love either. Accusations of bewitchment, they were also weaponized to discredit political rivals, especially those who seemed to have, undue influence over a ruler.
It's like saying, it's not the king's fault, he's been bewitched.
Right.
Taking all the blame off the person in power.
Indeed. It allowed people to criticize those in power without directly blaming the ruler, all while reinforcing the idea that magic was something dangerous and subversive, something to be feared and controlled. But here's where it gets really interesting. This fear of magical influence wasn't limited to actual magic, at least not in the way we might think about it today. Some people back then argued that any passionate love, whether between lovers or even close friends, was a form of bewitchment.
So basically, any intense emotion could get you labeled as suspicious.
Precisely. You can see this blurring of lines between, like, genuine magical beliefs and metaphorical enchantment reflected in the literature and plays from that era.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how much of it was truly about supernatural beliefs and how much was about controlling social behavior, especially when it came to love and desire.
So we've got all this historical baggage, right? This idea of magic being used to, like, control and oppress people, especially when it comes to, love and desire. It makes you think, how did we get from those accusations to this modern idea of queer magic as like a source of empowerment? The stuff you mentioned something about a queer magic resurgence.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
I think you've hit the nail on the head with the word resurgence. It's not about inventing something totally new, but more about reclaiming and reinterpreting this history, right?
Okay.
LGBTQ plus individuals are, like, flipping the script. They're taking this label that was once used for oppression and turning it into a source of, like, empowerment and self-discovery. They're not shying away from this connection to magic, but actually embracing it and reshaping it to, celebrate their identities and their experiences.
So it's about reclaiming that power, taking back control of the narrative.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that what was once used to demonize can actually be a source of strength, and connection.
Yeah.
And there are some really fascinating concepts and practices emerging from this movement that really highlight this shift.
One that really stuck out to me from the stuff you sent was the queer wheel of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it combines the traditional wheel of the year, the 8 seasonal festivals,
Right.
and connects them to the stages of coming out and, like, finding belonging within the LGBTQ plus community. What a brilliant concept.
It's beautiful, isn't it? How it, it reinterprets tradition. Each Sabbath or festival on the wheel takes on this whole new meaning, reflecting the joys and challenges of living authentically.
Right.
Like, for example, you've got Samhain, right?
Yeah.
Traditionally a time of, honoring the dead, reflecting on the past, while it becomes a time to connect with LGBTQ ancestors and those who, fought for queer liberation.
Wow. That's powerful. It's like taking something ancient and making it, deeply personal and relevant to the LGBTQ plus experience.
Right.
What other concepts from your research kind of stood out as examples of this modern take on magic?
Another great example is the 10 Queer Spiritual Roles. It's a framework developed by author and activist Christian de la Fuerza.
Wow.
And this concept, it reframes qualities often associated with queer individuals, like being outsiders, boundary pushers, seekers of truth, and it recognizes them as valuable assets in magical and spiritual practices. It's about taking those things that might have made someone a target and saying, actually, these are strengths.
Yeah, I love that. It's like completely flipping the script, turning what some might see as weaknesses into, like, the very things that make someone magically powerful. This all seems, really positive and empowering, but were there any challenges mentioned in your research? Because it seems like even in spaces that, preach acceptance, there's often still a long way to go.
Yeah, that's unfortunately true. Even within, magical and spiritual communities, which often, they pride themselves on acceptance and inclusivity. Discrimination, sadly, still exists. Some of the sources that I looked at, they shared stories from modern practitioners facing rejection from certain groups because of, their sexual orientation or gender identity. And it's a stark reminder that even when we think we're, like, creating these safe spaces, there's always more work to be done,
Right.
to challenge our unconscious biases and create true inclusivity.
Yeah. That's disheartening, but I appreciate you bringing it up. It's a good reminder that even within communities that, embrace otherness, we still have to be really mindful of, prejudice.
Yeah.
It can still kind of rear its ugly head. It's like we're all still learning and unlearning these ingrained societal norms. But it sounds like the queer magic community isn't backing down from these challenges.
Yeah.
Even when they face this discrimination, from within their own circles. How are they handling this?
Well, what's really inspiring is that the community isn't, just sitting around waiting for acceptance.
Right.
They're creating their own spaces, writing their own rituals, challenging those outdated norms within those traditional practices. There's this real sense of resilience and creativity and, a refusal to be silenced or excluded.
Yeah.
It really speaks to the power of reclaiming your own narrative and finding community and strength in that shared experience.
It's amazing, isn't it, how even when they come up against these challenges, discrimination and prejudice, the queer magic community just, like, forges its own path.
Yeah.
Reclaiming space and redefining what it means to, connect with magic and spirituality.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, and it's about so much more than just, like, the spells and the rituals, right?
Right.
It's about, like, tapping into something deeper, within yourself.
Yeah.
And finding community with others who get it, who understand that journey.
You've hit the nail on the head. It really is about, I think, challenging those assumptions. Not just about, like you said, power and identity, but also about spirituality itself,
Right.
It makes you question why certain practices, certain ways of being have been, pushed aside, marginalized, or even demonized throughout history. And it's not just about witchcraft, right? It's bigger than that.
Right.
It's about understanding how we see normal, how we define acceptable. It's been shaped by by those in power, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It's about reclaiming our own narratives and
Exactly.
finding that power in the places where society kind of tries to tell us we don't belong.
Yes. And that message that really resonates with so many people,
Yeah.
no matter how they identify.
Right.
And maybe, maybe this topic spoke to you because, well, like those drawn to magic throughout history, you have a unique perspective too,
Yeah.
one that the world needs to hear.
I think that's a good place to kind of wrap things up.
Yeah.
This deep dive has really, been eye-opening for me. It's like a whole new way of thinking about history, about identity, and about the power of, owning your own story.
It's a journey, isn't it?
It really is. And it makes you wonder, what does it actually mean to have a magical practice?
Yeah.
Whether you consider yourself queer or not.
Right.
Is it about, tapping into something ancient, something powerful?
Yeah.
Is it about embracing your own, unique identity or finding community in the most unexpected places?
It's a question worth asking.
It is, and I think it might be a bit of all of those things.
Yeah.
And more. So to everyone listening, keep asking those questions.
Yeah.
Keep digging deeper and never stop exploring the magic that exists within you.
And all around you.
Exactly. Until next time.